Alright, we're going to be talking about relations. Relations is basically just taking this given set of information. We can talk about points on a graph, we can use data in a table, we can talk about price, cost, things like that. It's just organizing data, what numbers go with what numbers. So often the easiest way to think about relations is through ordered pairs. So for example, this -1, this goes with +2. This 1 goes with -1. This 2 goes with +3. And if you remember ordered pairs, this is our x value, this is our y value, and we could graph those ordered pairs if we wanted to. So there's three different ways we can represent relations. One's a mapping, one is table, and the last one is through a graph. Let's go ahead and take a little bit of closer look at mapping here. Let's say we had these ordered pairs 1, 1, let's say we had 2, 1, 3, 4, and let's say 4, 2. Alright, when we do a mapping, we want to give ourselves two big sections here, and I'll go ahead and let these be my x values, then I'll give myself another section over here, and these will be my y values. So when I'm mapping these together, I just look up here, and I look at my x's. Okay, so I have 1 as my x value, so I'm going to put 1 over here, and I see that this one goes to a 1 in the y column, so I can put a 1 here, and then I'm going to map it. I'm going to draw an arrow from one to the other. Looking at my next ordered pair, I have a 2 in my x value, so I can put a 2 in here, and I see that my 2 is mapping also to a 1. Okay, well, I already have a 1 over on this side, and I know 2 maps to 1, so I can draw myself an arrow going from 2 to 1 right there. Alright, my next ordered pair, I have 3 and 4. Alright, well, I'm going to give myself a 3. I don't have a 4 over here yet, so I can give myself a 4 in the y column. And then I'm going to map the 3 to the 4. And then my last one, I have a 4 going to a 2. I need a 4 over here. I don't have a 2 in my y column, so I'm going to put a 2 here, and then I can map it across. And if we had this map, we can always say, alright, I know my ordered pair would be 1, 1. I know my another one would be 2, 1, 3, 4, 4, 2. So we're just mapping our x's to our y's. Okay, let's go ahead and move over to our table. Let's say we wanted to make a table. Let's say we had the ordered pairs. Let's say 1, -2, 3, 5, and let's say 7, -12. So if we're going to do a table on these, first we're just going to give ourselves an x column over here. We'll give ourselves a y column, and we're going to organize this just like a table. So for our x values, kind of like we did with the mapping, we put our 1 in the x column. So here we'll have 1, and we know 1's going to match with -2. We have a 3, that's going to match with 5. And we've got a 7, that's going to match with a -12. So we're basically just listing off our x's here and the corresponding y values that go with those. Here you're always going to have one straight across from the other because we're not using arrows to map. We're just putting our x here, our y here. So since we had 3 points, we're going to have 3 different rows with the table. Okay, the last one we want to talk about, which you've done sometime in your past, is a graph. And here we're just going to be graphing our ordered pairs. So say we had -1, -3, say we had 0, 2, and maybe we had 2, 2. So if we were going to graph these, we give ourselves a coordinate plane. Remember, this is our x-axis, we've also got our y-axis, and then we're just going to be graphing these points. So we know -1 is our x here, so we'd go to the left to -1, that would be here, -1, and then we have our y value of -3, so we're going to go to our y-axis and go down 1, 2, all the way to -3, and we'll give ourselves a point right there. And we could read this -1, -1, 2, 3. Remember, your x always goes first when you're graphing this. You always go horizontally, then you go vertically. So looking at this 0, well, 0 is right here in the middle, so we're not moving anywhere. And then we go to 2, so we're going to be going up 1, 2, 1, 2, and this point here would be 0, 2. Our next one, we have positive 2, back up over to 2 here. So we have 2, 2, and we've got a point right there. Now we've represented our relation in a graph, just graphing our x points, our x values and our y values, and drawing points at those spots. Alright, last new thing for this video is domain and range. Hey, take a mental note or write this down somewhere, because domain and range are going to rear their heads multiple times as you go forward in math. So it's really important. For now, go ahead and think of domain as all your x values and your range as all your y values. So really all you're going to be doing here is you're going to give yourself a set. So I'm going to say, all right, well, here's my set of numbers in the domain. Domain is the x value, so I can go up here and say, well, I've got an x value of -2. That's going to be in my domain. I've also got an x value of 3, so that's going to be in my domain. And my last x value is +2. That's also going to be in my domain. Basically, I'm just taking all my x values and saying those are in the domain. So the range is going to be very similar. We're just going to use the y values instead. So we've got 4, 1, and 2. So here I'm going to put 4, 1, and 2. So domain is the x values, range is the y values. Okay, let's do an example of what one of your problems might look like. So represent the relation as a mapping, a table, and a graph. Then state the domain and range. So we've got a set of 3 ordered pairs here. We've got 1, 1, we've got 2, -5, and 3, 1. All right, well, first I know I need to represent this as a mapping. So let's go ahead and do our map. Remember, our map has our x section, and it also has our y section. For our x, we have a 1. First, we have a 1, 1. So this is going to map a 1 to a 1. And I'll go ahead and give myself my arrow, mapping it over. Alright, in my next ordered pair, I have a 2 and a -5. Okay, I can draw a 2 here. I can put a -5. And I'm just going to map it right over with an arrow. My last ordered pair, I have a 3, 1. So I put a 3. Oh, I noticed that I already have a 1 written over here in my range, so I don't rewrite that. I just draw an arrow from my 3 all the way up to my 1. Okay? If we're going to make a table, next, we're just going to give ourselves an XY chart. And from here, we can just plug in our ordered pairs. So starting, we have 1, 1. Whoops. Starting, we have 1, 1. Then we've got 2, -5. Then we've got 3, 1. So our table, done. Lastly, we have our graph. I may have to zoom in a little bit over here, give myself a little bit more room. Remember, we had our value 1, 1, so we just graph this 1, 1. We have another value up here, which was 2, -5. That's going to be 1, 2, -1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be all the way down here. And then our last point was 3, 1. So I'm going to go over 1, 2, 3, back up to 1. And we've got our graph. Okay, and if we wanted to state our domain and range, I'm going to zoom out here to give myself some room for my domain and my range. Remember, domain is the x values. So looking up there, I have a 1, I have a 2, and I have a 3. Those are all my x values of the ordered pair. And then in my range, I have a 1, I have a -5, and I've got another 1, but I don't rewrite that because it's already in my set here. So that's my range. Sorry, I forgot one last thing. Inverses, real quick. If you have a relation with your ordered pairs, so here we have 1, 2, -3, 5. The inverse is just switching the x and y values. So if we wanted to graph our inverse here, instead of 1, 2, we now put 2, 1. Instead of -3, 5, now we put 5, -3. So all inverse is doing is it's switching our x and our y values. Okay, thanks.